good morning.
Good morning. All right, there I am. Hi. Oh my God. I think it's been since I saw you here.
Wow.
Was that in 2020?
I don't know that we've talked since Biden was sworn in as president, have we?
Well, wait a second. Oh, wait. When was he sworn in as president? Was that 2021? Yeah, that's right. We haven't spoken since like the January 6th insurrection or whatever.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
We haven't
Did we talk? I don't think we talked after that.
I think we called you on your birthday.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Part in the cul-de-sac. But yeah, I was just sort of like
That was
reviewing. Anyway, I just want to jump in, but hi, Heidi.
really. I feel like I'm sitting in your backyard with you.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time out here. This backyard is the result of the pandemic because we had to get creative about how to hang out with people.
Yeah.
So
Right.
at least what feels safe for us in our community, which I understand is very different, from community to community.
Right. Well, it looks pretty anyway. Wish I was back there with you. I don't know why my background is blurry. I'm not trying to be elusive as to what's behind me, but I don't know how to.
It's under your video settings, filters and stuff. It's all right.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it for now.
Yeah. Well, I reached out because I kept noticing on our heart perception there was a few reasons that on the Facebook page, it tells me when people look at our page, and it was noticing an uptick of people looking at it. And then also, I think I mentioned to you in the text that I sent you, Bo from the town hall meeting, like back when we were in front of a group of people in Seattle and we were invited there by Monica Guzman and Bo, another woman up there, she and I were in the same workshop and we hadn't seen each other in ages. And she came up to me, she's like, I heard something happened between you and Heidi and you aren't talking anymore. And I'm like, what? So, it's just, which is not true. Nothing happened. But for me, like I've been sitting with like, it's sort of this awareness of like, we haven't been talking as much. Mm-hmm. And I know I have some idea of what it is for me. I'm curious what it is for you. And I remember that there was a comment from you shortly after Biden was elected, some sort of comment around like, well, it's interesting that we're not talking now that Biden's the president. And I don't remember exactly, but like the impression I got from that comment was like perhaps an impression on your part that maybe I don't believe it's important to talk as much because now I feel safe, or something, so I was just aware of like, we need to talk. Let's talk about this. And there's so much going on. So
I know, so true. I think it is interesting that when Trump was elected, there was this flurry of activity of people on the Democratic side wanting to like go into Republican communities and figure out why in the world would you vote for this guy and open dialogue. And now that Biden is in office, I don't sense that urgency anymore, at least from the Democratic side, to want to have those conversations. And I think for me, it's kind of like being like living in a nightmare and wanting to just wake up from it and like, okay, I'm just going to check out. And then in 4 years, I'll check back in when I can do something about it, which is vote. But
Do you
yeah,
not have a similar curiosity to understand our side and want to come and like hang out with us and understand us better as a result?
that's
Similar
a
to
good
how our
question, because I have thought about that. And I think knowing you has helped me not jump to assumptions quite as much, because I have a relationship with you and we do have a heart connection. And so when I think I mentioned this in a text to you or a call to you, that when I start to feel myself getting really angry and upset, then I'm like, yeah, but it's people like Kellie who I think that in your mind that you believe that you are doing good and that you are that our country is going in a good direction in your mind. And so it helps me not to villainize you. But it's still super upsetting. I don't know. I think I almost have had like, what good does it do for us to hash through more things? Because we did it for 4 years. And the important thing for me is that you and I still have a connection and a relationship.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is sort of like I heard your comment about like being in a nightmare, which is like both like, wow, what is that like to feel that as a result of, I mean, I know what it was like to feel it.
Right.
Power. So it's just sort of sitting with that like reverberation of like, wow, our realities are so
Flipped.
there's no overlap there, right? You know, that Venn diagram does not overlap.
Mm-mm.
So just sitting with that and going like, wow. And then also hearing your, I don't know the right word, but it's not despair. It's just more like resignation.
Resignation.
Like,
Yeah.
like what good does it do to
Yeah.
even try?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm also curious, like, what has kept you from reaching out to say, hey, let's talk, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I mean, I'm happy to share for me what I think it has been, but I'd love to hear about that from you, even because we haven't been connecting as much.
I know, that's so true. Yeah. I think, gosh, it might just be that I felt like maybe it was time to move on and do something else with, as far as I put in so much effort into recording and editing and posting, and it just took a lot of time. And I really feel like I have so many professional goals that I can't spread myself too thin. And the amount of time that it was taking me to do that, I just thought, maybe it's time to move on and to do some other things, but not move on like from you as my friend. And that's just I think it takes a lot of energy for you and I to have conversations. It's not an easy friendship. And I have we've talked about this before, like our communities that we're in, they're easy friendships because we don't have these trigger words. We don't like run up against these worldview things all the time. And it's just easy. So I have to go, okay, do I have enough energy to have one of those conversations? Because we can talk about kids and marriage, and there's a lot of great things that we have in common, and what you're doing professionally and what I'm doing professionally. But inevitably, there's going to be something of politics or worldview or something that is going to come into it. And it just takes a greater amount of energy. So
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a relief to hear that that's exactly the same experience. Because, man, pandemic, I don't, at least here, because I'm aware of, like, anytime I see videos that you post, I'm like, pandemic doesn't exist where you live, which is like amazing. But it's starting, it's been not existing here either. But, but let's say early on when life was shut down, and then when it was like opening back up, and we were like even trying to figure out, can we survive as massage therapists?
yeah. Yeah.
In a world that, like, everybody's social distancing and we can't do it remotely.
Right.
And it's like my level of resilience and capacity was non-existent, and I remember, like, when you were here in February of 2020, it was so rich and so hard.
Yeah.
Like, it was both. Like, I don't have any other relational experience like that in my life, of like, where it's just like, I feel your commitment, I feel your heart, I feel your love. I feel your love for my family, and yet, like, we spent so much time, and I still hold so dear that memory of you trying to save me. Oh my gosh, you must really love me, because you gave it your all. And I just, like, I've told that story with so much warmth in my heart several times, and then the conversations we had about abortion, and I'm not even remembering what else. It was just a lot. It was hard.
Was hard.
Yeah. And got in a habit of prioritizing my comfort in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to stay afloat like the rest of us, and not drown with I mean, we are, my husband is a pastor, and he and I lead a church, and it was very hard in that season for churches to, we did so much online, but then even when we started to meet in person again, I mean, how do you social distance in a church? And then even when you social distance, there are people like, keep your mask on when you're singing songs. And then some people are like, I don't want to keep my mask on when I'm singing a song. And then the people in front of them are like, they took their mask off when they were singing a song, and now their molecules are getting on me. And I don't know, it was a very hard season.
Yeah. So similar for you, I imagine, of like no extra bandwidth to navigate difficult relationship.
Right. And a new challenge every other day that was coming up with it. And I think here we had such, and maybe there as well, it doesn't maybe sound like quite as much, but we had so many strong opinions on either side.
Yeah.
That in fact, my husband even made a comment when he was teaching. He was talking about how there are such strong opinions on both sides of the fence regarding masks. And he even had people upset that he made that comment, about that, even though he was trying to use it as a biblical parallel, that there were things that Jesus said that people got really, really upset about. And there were things, during that time that caused a lot of division as well. And masks is something that caused a lot of division, and our churches were no exception.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And there was a lot of church shopping, or like speed dating with churches, because people got to stay home, and then they just watch a bunch of different services online, and they're like, ooh, I kind of like that one. Maybe we should go try that church. And then whatever church has a childcare program that's even open, then People are like, okay, we're going to go there because our kids get to go to Sunday school.
Oh my gosh. So you were constantly like navigating, like, do we have enough like enrollment and
Sure.
income coming in because you have
Yeah.
to run a major organization. Oh my,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was hard. So I imagine for you all as massage therapists, it was very, very difficult too. Do you feel like you're getting back to normal as far as?
Yeah, we got back. I mean, that's the thing is we reopened earlier than most massage therapists around town because we started massaging out here.
Oh,
And um and and then I'm also doing the counseling, the body-based counseling work. And we still mask with people indoors. And I'm, like in this conversation with myself of like risk tolerance, you know.
right. Uh-huh. Mhm.
And I did get COVID in early May. I went on my first plane flight, and it was after the mask mandate was over. So I was masked, but 85% of the plane was not. And I did get it from the flight. So
Wow.
it yeah. And that
Was
wasn't,
that rough? Was it rough for you?
yeah, it was rough enough that I was put on Paxlovid. And
Okay.
um
So
I
sorry.
don't think I was ever in danger of,
Yeah.
you know, losing any, like being incredibly unwell, but it was just like, wow, and then it took forever to get out of my system.
Uh,
And I still wonder if my brain is entirely back to normal.
I've
So
heard there's like a fog, a COVID fog. Mhm.
yeah, do not recommend. 1 star. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
so
had it twice. I got it a year ago, April, and it was really awful. And then I got it last January and it wasn't quite as bad.
oh, that's good.
But I ended up having to get vaccinated before we went on our big overseas trip. So,
Right. I know you were doing that under duress.
and then it didn't matter because they lifted all the restrictions, I think, the day that we left. So no one ever asked to see my vaccine card. It didn't matter. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. And that's interesting, like for myself, sort of noticing my journey along that, like being really up in arms about people need to be vaccinated. And now it's like, whatever, people's choice,
yeah.
you know.
Really? So you feel, what do you think is the difference for you in releasing that?
Well, ultimately, it's like, I think when I'm in fear, I want to hold on tightly and I get rigid, right?
Mm,
And
mhm.
I think that's what most humans do.
Yeah.
When we're in fear, we get rigid and we hold on tight to what we think will make us safe.
Mhm, mhm.
And living with this pandemic for this long, it just can't help but make me more flexible.
Yeah. Like you go, well, I guess it's just part of our world now. And
Yeah.
one of those things like cancer and car accidents and everything else, that's a risk of being alive.
Yeah. And two, it's like, it's also true that like none of us really know. We don't know. We don't know if the vaccine's going to help us, or we don't know if it's not going to help us. Like there's enough evidence that says that it does, but there's also, the reality that it's not covering the current variants. And, there's the reality that some people get harmed. And, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, that I wanted to return to that piece of like dejection that you mentioned, because I just feel like that's like, speaking for probably the collective consciousness.
Mhm,
It's like, what's the point? Why even try?
mhm.
And I both understand that, and I feel so sad about that too,
Yeah. Mhm.
because anything I look at out there, it's just yelling at each other as opposed to any attempt to understand,
Yeah. Yeah.
minimal attempts to understand. And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that.
I think about, I'm sure you've seen it. It's like the body map that talks about the energy in your body when you feel different emotions. Like when you're angry, that the fists are red hot and the eyes are red hot. And when there's anxiety, it's like the stomach and the gut and the throat are red hot. And the one that is depression, the body is totally blue. There, it's numb. There's no feeling anywhere. And it reminds me of that movie Inside Out, when the girl, I think she was like on the bus, and everything, she's had to move and she's lost all her friends, and she's just super, super depressed, and she can feel nothing until there's something suddenly that sparks her and makes her really mad and makes her body like come back to life again.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe it's like then, or the resignation almost just feels like a low grade depression, just because every time I go to the gas pump and get gas, and here it's been over $5 sometimes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that it's costing this much to just get to work and back, or to um, drive my kids to soccer. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then to go to the grocery store, and I'm spending twice as much now on food as I was before. And with my family and having 4 teenage boys, like they eat a lot of food. And so I just feel like there's this low grade depression of, I'm either just going to get really angry and spew all over everybody, or I'm just going to go, well, looks like that's the world we live in. And we can't get childcare workers, or, getting employees for anything is so hard right now. So
Do you see that all, like gas prices and food prices and employment challenges, as because of Biden?
oh yeah, definitely.
Interesting, because around the world, gas prices are way more expensive than here. We have really low gas prices. Like, it's a global situation, and ours are being kept low. So like, this is what's fascinating, is like our different sides see things.
Yeah. I mean, so in my world,
Mhm.
we see that that when the pipeline was shut down, and we're not able to produce our as much oil independently now as we once were, that is what drove the gas prices up. In fact, there are stickers on gas pumps that have a picture of Biden with his fingers pointing at the price of gas, saying, I did this. That's
Wow. So that's really the story being told in your circle.
yeah.
How fascinating.
That the
Yeah. So
environment.
no wonder you're so angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So in your mind, then, what is in your community being said, at least narratively, what is the reason for, what are you all saying is the reason for gas prices and food
Well,
prices?
companies are, companies are primarily interested in making money. And oil companies are making money hand over fist right now because they can. And like, my mom and her husband are traveling through Canada right now, and the gas price up there is close to $8 a gallon. And they're in an RV, and then my friends who live in Austria, they're paying similar, if not more, per gallon. So like, the companies are laughing their way to the bank right now because they can. Like, and our Supreme Court when it was tipped to the right, it ruled that corporations are people. John Roberts, the Supreme Court, the head of the Supreme Court, like he was this deciding vote in that, and decided that, corporations have every right as people, and corporations' prime directive is to make money. And so, like, not to care about us at the gas pump and us in the grocery store. So I don't know. That's the story in our circle. I'm imagining that in your circles, it's around like, they're all socialists and they want to prioritize like taking money out of the pocket. So to pay for the homeless on the street. It's like,
no, it's not that. It's that they are so concerned about the environment that they will cut oil production and cut some of these things that help our country to be self-sufficient, and want everybody to buy electric cars.
The electric cars thing. Yes. Sorry, I talked over you.
It's okay.
Yeah, the electric car. I mean, that's also just such a ruse. Like the amount of strip mining involved to produce those batteries. I mean, that's harmful.
So you don't see electric cars as being the solution to the gas price?
No, like in parts of the country, where's the electricity coming from? Coal mining, so we've got a real energy production issue here. And we've got environmental disaster going on too. I don't know what the answer is, but it can't not consider the environment, and it can't not consider the impact on people. It's got to be both. And I think what happens is like our camps get so focused on one because it's a pushback against the other.
Right.
So there's no conceding ground, because we're like, to heck with you. And we're making it, when there's energetically, if you're only saying no to this, then I have to say yes completely, right?
Right.
So, and then if you're only saying yes, then I'm going to have to say no, because there needs to be someone anchoring both of those in the field, right? But what happens if we both can just sit here and go like, well, some of this is really good and some of this is really not so good. How do we come together to try to like,
I love that. I love hearing your balanced viewpoint, because I don't hear that. I just don't.
Well, because for some reason, the freaking news and the way that we hear about each other's communities, for whatever reason, like they want to sell things too. And you know what sells things? Drama sells. And so, and then we stop talking to each other because we're buying it.
Yeah.
I feel very frustrated about it.
So one question, a curious question I had for you was, recently you posted something on Facebook about Satanists and the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and then I deleted it. I'm like,
oh, did you delete
it? So, okay, the Church of Satan.
It confused me.
Right, so maybe I get it. So
I was like, ooh, do you really want to align the Supreme Court with Satanists?
Okay. So what I was referring to was the Church of Satan, which is not actually a religion. It's a political organization that has called themselves that tongue in cheek as a way to push back against this movement to have religion, specifically Christianity, control politics, right? So anytime a community has put, like there was that one place, one situation where I think it was a courthouse or a city hall put the 10 Commandments in their lobby, and the Church of Satan, a political organization, said, oh, great, you want to do that? Great. We want a statue of Beelzebub. Satan. in there too, knowing that that would never fly.
Right.
So, but the whole point being is like, oh, if we're going to combine state and religion, which is separated in our country with good cause, because there is a whole weight of history in Europe, which we have both studied, about the popes controlling the state, and it was a shit show. So anytime there's been a movement to marry politics and religion, the Church of Satan comes in and is like, oh, you want to do that? How about this? And then it's a walk back, right? Because it's not acceptable.
Right.
So that's what I was, my post was about. Now we need to consider increasing the size of the court, I think. And is the Church of Satan going to open a school? Because now that religious schools are funded by state money, this would be an interesting time for that organization to ask for state money to fund a Church of Satan school.
I see.
And to see like what's people's tolerance, because is it only Christianity that is okay for the state to fund, or are you really open to it funding Muslim schools and Jewish schools and Baha'i schools and Hindu schools and every freaking religion there is? That includes like Scientology, that includes Mormonism, that includes any random cult that is registered as a religion. Like, is that really what we want to put our state money to? Because if it's only okay for Christian schools, then we have a problem of exceptionalism, and that's not what America stands for, you know? So that's what that post was about.
And did you take it down because of feedback you got from people, or you just had a sense like,
it was my own internal thing of like, I don't like showing up this way. It was this like sort of reactive, and it's like, this is not what I stand for. Like, what I stand for is like, I want to have deeper level connection with people. And for the most part, since the 2016 election, I haven't posted anything like that. But I was mad. I was mad and frustrated, and I was sitting with that for a while, and then I had to consciously open my heart, and that was at the point where I texted you. And I was like, and that text I sent you was like, I just want you to know I love you. I know our communities are celebrating in different ways. This was on the abortion ruling, the Supreme Court. And because that's what I stand for.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm going to misstep and forget that. That's what I always want to come back to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that I felt like got missed in and I so appreciated your that you reached out to me during that, because I was feeling very much there's this polarization for sure around it. We have people in mourning and people celebrating.
Yeah.
But one thing that I felt like got missed in that whole deal was that the Supreme Court's ruling was on constitutionality. It wasn't a moral ruling. Did you see it that way, or did you see it as a morality ruling?
I saw it as a direct result of Trump getting in bed with the religious right and putting hardcore right-wing and religious people in the Supreme Court. And that this was a direct result of it. And even John Roberts, who tends to the right, he was actively trying to get those people to come more center. He was like, this is like a bedrock, don't. And they didn't listen. And so that was my frustration. And then seeing the fallout from them and over half of the country, I mean, like, that it falls so disproportionately on women, and that there's no regulation of men in this, and there's no requirement.
What would regulation of men look like?
Oh, you know what it would look like is if you get a woman pregnant, you have to pay child support no matter what for that baby, no matter what. So every pregnant person, they immediately get a paternity test, and that man is on the hook.
I love that. That's
Let's
fantastic.
make it happen.
Oh my gosh.
No more,
I totally support
no
that.
more, yeah, no more irresponsible sex.
Right.
You know, that there are ramifications that go beyond the woman.
Yes. Yes.
But will it ever happen? No.
Why do you think it would never happen?
Because our country has a history of being afraid of women and wanting to regulate us, and not having the same approach to men. That's my impression.
But with Biden in office, and with the Democrats in power in so many ways, wouldn't they want to push that through, even if in your mind, if the conservatives are, if you see them as being afraid of women, wouldn't the
I think it comes down more to a male-female thing than a political party thing, like how many men are in power versus how many women are in power.
Okay.
How many men run major corporations versus how many women?
How many politicians have gotten women pregnant?
Oh, exactly. On both sides of the aisle. Like, I guarantee that so many of those men pushing for abortion control have gotten women pregnant, and I'm sure there's plenty of them that have gotten abortions in secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Or
you
pay
know,
them off, or
exactly. So
I feel like that is for you and I, that's such a unifying call to action, because I completely agree with you. You know, there, I think, goodness, you and I could start our own campaign on that.
Oh
like, yeah, we're a conservative and a liberal, and we agree on this.
Okay, guys, time to step up. And like, wouldn't that have the impact of men being a lot more intentional about like what happens to their sperm?
Totally. Totally.
Because we have DNA technology now.
Oh, I know.
Oh, this is what, and this idea, to become totally clear, this is not my idea. It was a client of mine. She's a retired nurse practitioner. She's like, this is my idea. She said, anytime a baby boy is born, his DNA is taken and put in a registry, a national registry. So his DNA is on file. It's done in the hospitals. And so whenever that soon-to-be man eventually impregnates someone, we know exactly who it is.
No way.
On the hook.
That's fantastic.
Well, it's like Handmaid's Tale, but for men.
Right. And yeah, an officer needs to show up at his door and hand him paperwork that says, congratulations, Daddy.
The rest of your work life now has to take care of his child.
Right. Yeah. Be careful where your sperm goes.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
But I mean, as a mother of 4 boys, if one of your boys missteps, like,
yeah,
is that what you'd want for them? Like, they are on the hook for their life.
Yes,
okay,
because there are natural consequences.
Yeah.
You need to live with the natural consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think abortion makes it too easy for men to just skip out and be like, oh, well, I'll here's some money, go take care of your problem. And then a woman is traumatized for
Yeah.
life from the trauma of that abortion. It's not fair.
Yeah.
She lives with the trauma, and then the guy's like, I'm gonna, go on and live my life.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Well, I mean, and for me, it's like the whole abortion conversation is more about how we don't take care of people and less about like the right to have to not have an unwanted kid, right?
Mm.
It's like we care about unborn babies, but we don't care about people who are already here. And
Who do you see doesn't care about people who are already here?
well, like the rights, the people on the right consistently vote against anything like social, like social safety nets, more like universal health care, things that actually take care of people. Like right now, people can go bankrupt if they have medical bills they can't pay, right? Like they are not allowed to not pay medical bills. And this is a problem. Like the fact that people can go destitute because of medical bills, the fact that people who can't afford to live in homes, right? The homeless problem is everywhere. Oh, and addiction problems. And it's just like, we don't take care of people. And so if a woman who can't afford to have a kid gets pregnant, it devastates her. There's no safety net, right?
Well,
So,
except that she could have that child and give it up for adoption, and then someone else raises it, and she doesn't have any financial
well,
consequences.
except that there's more of a need, there's more of a desire for white babies than brown babies. And
Statistically, I mean, is there research to prove that?
I have read, but I can't quote anything. Yeah,
Okay.
we could reconvene on
Yeah,
that.
I'd be interested to look that up and see. I
Yeah,
know there are between 1 and 2 million people waiting to adopt a child.
it would be interesting to see their race preference. And on top of that, the statement of like, well, they can just give it up for adoption, that's 10 months of being sick, of having body changes, of not being supported during that time. It's not just a thing of, oh, just give the baby up for adoption. I was in recovery from my pregnancy for 2 years afterwards because it was so hard on my body. And I still had issues with my pelvis as a result of my pregnancy. So it's not a low impact.
No, I do see that. I mean,
And
it's a great sacrifice.
now, if we lived in a country that did take care of people and supported a woman fully during pregnancy and fully during, the aftercare,
Mhm.
and she could take off time work if she was feeling sick. We never know what we're going to feel in pregnancy, and not worry about having to feed kids she already has, about having to pay her bills. It would be a far different story, but that's not the country we live in. That's not the reality. And that's what I struggle with more. Like if we lived in a different setup where we took care of people, then it would.
There's a really big effort called Love Them Both that
Mhm.
very much has that message that it's extremely important to care for women
Mhm.
who find themselves pregnant. And there are so many resources available to them now through pregnancy centers that will walk a woman through that entire pregnancy and help her financially and help her, give her emotional support and be there, be in the hospital there with her when she has her child, be there with her even if she chooses to keep the child, then they will help her go to pregnancy classes and provide clothing and formula and all of those things. And then if they decide that they want to give the child up for adoption, then they walk them through that whole process too. So I see that there, like you're saying, there probably are some pockets of our country that maybe don't have a pregnancy center super close by, that they would need to travel a little bit to get to it, but they are there and they're available.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I love that initiative, the Love Them Both initiative. And that's what I posted when I was saying that I was really happy that Roe v. Wade got overturned. I said, now it's time to step up and to love them both.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
hopefully that message gets out there more and more, that we need to be caring for women as well. But I see your concern, Kelly, with that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hear
And I know it's a topic that we're always kind of like,
it.
and yeah, I'm just noticing like how we both have gotten a little tense.
Well, and it's
Here.
tricky for me because you know that professionally I coach abortion survivors to tell their stories publicly. And that is new since you and I have over the last, it's only been a year and a half or so, or not even a year and a half that I've been doing that. So that's really new. And we haven't had any conversations since that all happened. But I'm very much a part of the pro-life movement now. And I've never been an activist, but now I kind of am, because I'm a coach for people who were aborted as babies and survived, and now are gaining the courage to tell their stories publicly. And I want to champion their voices.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that when you first started getting involved with that. I was walking, like I can see where I was walking in my life while you were telling me that. And I was really intentional and aware of celebrating with you because you experienced a lot of joy around it. And I was just like, wow, it just sounds like total alignment with your values. Yeah. And I've wondered since then, because I don't have like an equal and opposite thing on my side, like, but I have wondered, like, could you equally celebrate with me if I were to come to you and be like, Heidi, I'm so excited. I'm now a pro-abortion activist and I am speaking. I know I'm lobbying the government and I'm coaching people who have direct impact in it. Like, would you also be able to celebrate with me?
I would have to dig really deep.
I can see your eyes like go, ugh.
It would be super hard. It would be super hard. Yeah. I admire you for being able to celebrate with me, because you're right. I don't know. I mean, I celebrate Kellie and who she is and all the gifts and skills and abilities that you have. But I don't know. That's really hard. I mean, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Please don't. Don't put me in that situation.
Oh, but I think the reason why we're all here is to grow.
I know it would be definitely the edge of my growth.
Well, I mean, okay, so that makes me want to return back to this piece that I'd love to dive in more deeply, because you named, like, after Trump was elected, so many Democrats went into like, I want to know you better. And I want to know why you don't want to know us better, right? So here it is. Somebody equally scary to you is in office and you guys are like, I'm out. I was like, where's the curiosity? Where's the reach? Right? Why aren't you reaching for us? Like, I want to know, like, is it like, what keeps you from doing that? Because we're like, okay, we're coming for you because it's too scary not to know you. At least that's what it was for me. And now, like, what happened? Where are you guys? Why aren't you trying to understand so that you're not as scared or angry or reactive?
Yeah, I and this is me I think admitting weakness in a way that um, sometimes I make assumptions and feel like I already know what you're going to say.
Mm.
And that's not good. I hate admitting that, but I wonder if conservatives do that. Maybe generally, I'm sure liberals do as well, because there were a whole lot of liberals who didn't want to hear from conservatives at all. Like, so many of the workshops and things that you and I did together, there were some people that were like, why would I want to have a conversation with them? But I'll say for myself, I think that sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to hear the same thing and I already know what they're going to say. So that I need to stay curious, and it's a good reminder to me to stay curious instead of making assumptions.
Yeah, and I agree that it's not just our side. I mean, there's probably more people who are whatever. I have a lot of liberal friends that try to use me as a proxy to having a conversation with you. I can't tell you how many times I've had to shut people down. I'm like, I'm not sitting here and defending Heidi. If you want to talk to her, if you want to know what she thinks, here's her email. And it's a similar sort of like,
Yeah. Ask her why would she support that? Why would she do that? Why would she?
Right. Did she know? Does she know the rate of blah, 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 blah? And I'm just like, don't talk to her.
I mean, this is so funny because we've had this call scheduled here for a few days, but in the last couple of days, I think I've had 2 people go, hey, have you talked to your friend in a while? Like, what's happening with that? I'm like, oh, we have a call on Monday. So
It's just something, it's in the field right now. Like, it's just in the air of just like, and I'm sure there's so many things we could talk about, and I'm just not thinking about it because it's just like, hey, when I'm just connecting with you, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
We touched on the abortion thing. We're never going to see eye to eye there.
Oh, I do have a question for you. Yeah. So my side is pretty dang up in arms over the raid of Lago.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, good. Let's talk about it.
I would love to know what you think of that. And do you think it's an overreach? And like, if this was Obama's house, do you think that your side would be up in arms over them raiding his place and getting everything out of his safe and all of that?
I honestly don't know how my side would react if it was Obama. Of course, I'm like, well, of course Obama wouldn't do that. But do you know that there's a woman who's been in jail for 3 years because she took one document, and Trump has boxes of them that the Justice Department asked back, and he said no, so that's why they had to raid and go get it. Boxes. This woman's been in jail for 3 years, might be 2, for one document. Now, does Trump not, does he have special exception under the Espionage, and Classified Documents Act? Like, this is like, why should he be special? Why? I don't think Obama should be special. Like, sure, if you break that rule and you have nuclear information at your private residence, where he's had so many different people from all around the world come and stay there, like, why should he be different? That's where I'm like, what's the issue here? Even there are some Republicans who are walking back and going, hey, we shouldn't be so like,
right, I know,
quick to judge the FBI, because there's some really bad stuff going on there potentially. And the fact that they declassified the warrant, that's unheard of because of all of the up in arms on the side. It's just like, okay, yeah, we asked for these boxes of documents and Trump refused. Why would he refuse? They don't belong to him. They belong to our government, and they have like secrets that could compromise us. So what is the up in arms about on your side?
I think it's that it looks, I mean, because there's been a pattern of trying to discredit him with the impeachments and the Russia probe and the like so many different things that have been attempted to try to discredit him. And we see that this is just one other attempt politically to
So,
knock him out so that he won't be able to run again
mhm.
in 2024. I think that's at least that's what I'm reading and seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, like, taken in that context, how it does look like it's just part of this pattern of being on a witch hunt with him.
Mhm, mhm.
Of course, like, I'm also like merited, but I can see how on your side that would look completely outrageous.
Yeah, right. Just part of a pattern of trying to
And
just,
yeah, and that it would, that because it falls into what looks like a pattern, there's less interest to really go like, okay, is this merited? Let's look at the details here.
right, right.
Like, have you or anyone you know, like, have you actually read about it to see like, okay, why is this happening? This is like a big deal.
I've read a
Yeah.
little bit, yeah, but I think the things that I've read focus a lot more on the discrediting Trump and that it's the overreach. I think it focuses more on that messaging than
Right.
on what exactly they're looking for. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like just assuming they're not going to come up with anything and that this is just an overreach.
Yeah. Yeah. So then of course.
But my goodness, if this is valid and they do come up with classified documents that he shouldn't have had, well, then I think he should face consequences for that. But and I will say that in 2024, I really hope he's not our nominee. I really do. I hope that he chooses to endorse a candidate that has a more professional rhetorical style. I
Yeah.
think that I think he was extremely divisive, and I really hope we have a candidate that I'm able to vote for in because I will vote Republican again because I more align with the values of the Republican Party, but I would hate it if my arm was twisted to have to vote for Trump again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's frustrating to me, especially as a communication strategist. I'm like, can he hire me to coach him? I don't know that
I don't
he's
think he
coachable.
would.
I know.
He would look at you and go like, oh, this beautiful woman is coach. This is nice. I'm spending time with a beautiful woman. Then he'd forget everything afterwards. Do what he wants.
I know. Yeah, but we'll see what happens.
Are there any other questions that your friends were like, oh, talk to her about this?
Well, no, but my question is so far, how are you feeling about Biden being in office with
God, I don't want him to run again.
he's in such terrible decline and
Oh
he
God,
gets made fun of all the time and it makes me super sad for him, like he's my grandpa, and oh, don't make him have to talk again because they're gonna make fun of everything he says. I just think it's just sad. He's like a puppet president and he's not running the country, somebody else is. But how are you feeling about Biden
I
being
don't think any president runs the country. I think every president is like the figurehead for a vast,
oh sure,
whatever network of puppeteers.
but like when you see him speak, are you proud that he's our president?
No, I'm so over old white men running our country, like so over it. And I really, really, really don't want him to be the candidate next time around. We won't win. We will not win.
Mm.
Republicans can run Margie Taylor. She'll win over Biden. I don't know. Like, I think it's bad. It's bad. So I'm not happy about the situation at all. So.
Well, it's honestly good to hear because I wondered if in our conversation you were going to defend him and be like, oh yes, he's, very presidential in the way he carries himself or whatever.
Let's put it this way. I don't think he's pissing off other leaders except for China. So I think he looks better on paper as far as diplomacy goes, but as far as having big, amazing impact, no. I mean, I'm not afraid of him like being Putin's puppet. I'm not afraid of, him praising Kim Jong-un or whatever the North Korean leader is. I mean, Trump really had a thing for despots, so I like that Biden is not enamored with dictators and despots. So,
I've been, as just a person, as a human, I've just been sad for him, sad for Biden because, he ran 2 other times for president and didn't win. Like, and that was in his youth or more younger.
Yeah.
He had all of his wits about him. And I'm sure that, he would have just had a much clearer mental state to be able to run a country. So I'm sad. I'm like, golly, can you imagine for him what it'd be like going, dang it, I'm an old man and now I finally get a chance to run the country and I can't put 2 thoughts together. It's just not, life isn't fair.
That's funny. It would not occur to me to spend any ounce of energy on that thought. Like, wow. It's just like, whatever. He's in power and life doesn't suck for him. And he's set for the rest of his short life.
I know.
And he's surrounded by yes people. I don't think he's having a hard time. I'm sure it's not an easy job, but
yeah. That's me just trying to find some empathy somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like, I think if he actually felt the way that you imagine, he wouldn't run again.
Yeah.
Because he would actually have some perspective on what the country needs, which is a younger take and more inner resources. I don't know. I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off on my side just by saying, who knows? No, I'm not there. I mean, so many people I'm friends with are like a Biden. At least he's better than Trump.
Okay, last question, and then we should close it because not everybody wants to watch us for over an hour.
Well, they can listen while they do yard work.
There you go. So last question, how do you feel and where are you with all of the migrants and the immigrants coming over the border now and us not having control over that?
Honestly, don't spend any time thinking about it. Yeah.
Because you were really, really, really upset when Trump was in office about how immigrants were being treated. And so now it's not an issue for you that they're just rushing over the border and
are they being held in cages without water and access to facilities like they were?
There's no way that we can care for all of them. And if
I know, but are they being held in cages like they were under Trump?
Well, I don't completely believe that story. So it's really hard for me to disagree with you. I think that there was a lot of that was spun to make it look worse than it was.
So you don't think that Elizabeth Warren, who did like a blow by blow, she went and visited and tweeted everything. So you think that she lied? That entire thread that she did was a lie?
I think it was very political. I think everything she wrote.
What does that mean?
I
Does
think
that mean
that
it was a lie?
no, I think it was spun. I
What is,
think there
but
might
that
have been
means it was a
pieces,
lie.
there might have been pieces to it that were true, but I think it was spun because we can do a lot with rhetoric to make things sound like different things. So I'm super skeptical of all of that because I
So
wasn't
basically,
there.
you don't think she was
Yeah.
being truthful, which was
I
lying.
I think she had a particular perspective and I think she spun it for political gain. That's what I think. So anyway, so what you are saying is in your perspective, since people are not being kept in cages, it's not an issue for you.
Well, do I know for certain that they're not being kept in cages right now? No. I do admit that because I feel better about this administration, I just instinctually trust that the situation is maybe better than it was then. Do I know? No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, interesting that you don't, that it's not an issue for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that it's not an issue. It's not in my face the way it was before. And yeah, the last 2.5 years have really had the impact of me limiting my exposure to stress causing information, because especially early on in that time frame, I could not handle more.
Yeah. 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 I get that. So we went through a season where we were trying to engage each other's media and what we thought each other
Yeah.
would be watching. Do you still do that?
No, I haven't done that in a while. Do you?
I did in preparation for this
mean-
for this conversation because I thought, oh, I haven't done that in a long time. I just watch Fox News. That's the app on my phone, and that's the one I go to when I want to see what's going on. But I was like, ooh, I should see what CNN is saying. So then I went to
Funny, I don't watch CNN.
What do you watch?
I don't watch anything. I read the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And the New York Times does have some conservative like pundits on there. So that's always interesting to
Yeah.
read those.
Yeah.
So those are the only real news sources I get. But it was interesting because I did have that thought of like, oh, I should bone up. But then I was like, but that's not what I stand for, and that's not why I do this. It's
No.
actually to move beyond that, because like if we're stuck like, what about this issue, then it's like we're not getting down to where I want to be, which is like feeling your heart,
Right.
and being in this dynamic tension of like really caring about you and really disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
So many things.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Not everything, but so many things.
I love that too.
Yeah.
I think my purpose in looking at what CNN was saying was to just say, oh, I wonder how Kellie sees these different things. I wonder what is the rhetoric that's coming from that side, to because I was sure it was very different from mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was the Lago thing. That was what I was reading about. And so it just helped me maybe see things from your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I read the New York Times about the Mar-a-Lago raid, I mean, it does report on the guy who like tried to attack the FBI, and then the other guy who there was a car that burned. I don't know. There's a few people that like are like trying to start a war with the FBI. And like that's just so, I don't know. I really am sitting in here, this place of like, shit is gonna get more intense. It's just gonna keep going that way, and it's gonna get more and more polarized. And there's probably nothing I can do about it, but does that mean I shouldn't try?
Yeah. Yeah. No, we have to keep trying for sure. I do experience some fear as we're moving toward the election, because I hear from my friends in other countries that elections are the cause of so much unrest in
Yeah.
their countries, and they lead to physical violence and to so many things, um, so much that is scary for them. And I've never, in being in America, I've always felt like our elections are relatively diplomatic, that if the other side wins, we're like, okay, the other side won, and we're going to suck it up for 4 years until we get to vote again. And it's been very much a democratic process in that we all have agreed to since we live in America. But now I feel like we're almost politically more like a third world country, that if someone wins that we don't like, then it could lead to civil war. Like if Trump gets reelected again, I can't imagine what is going to happen. The physical violence and things that could come out of that, the riots and the whatever, that are people like, he's not my president. And it just,
Yeah.
saddens me to see the direction that our country is going, to not be able to have civil disagreements and leave it at that, and then go on with our lives and live peacefully in community with each other.
Peaceful transfer of power, that was a hallmark of our government. Yeah, I mean, equally, I'm like, well, if the right side doesn't get elected, then it's going to be more cries of voter fraud and and an agitation of the ultra-right paramilitary groups. The left doesn't really have the equivalent. I mean, I know Antifa is spoken of, but can you name more than one? No. Because we can go like the Boogaloos, the Proud Boys, the Ku Klux Klan, and it's just like the list goes on. They're all the ultra-right, and they have weapons. I'm just like, we don't have the equivalent. We can't protect ourselves, and they all decide they're coming after us. So,
So if Biden does win, then would you think that there is a chance that there was voter fraud?
I have no idea.
Like, he stands a chance.
I don't know. I have no idea, Heidi. It really depends on what who the Republicans run.
Yeah.
Right. Like, God, I wish Mitt Romney would run again. Especially he's like, looks so sane, balanced. So
if we do have a sane and balanced nominee, then I think that they have I think that
they definitely
it's a really good thing in helping to unify.
Yeah, except all of the Republicans are really really seem to be like kowtowing to Trump. So it's more of this sort of reactionary ultra-right approach, as opposed to the more like Mike Pence, Mitt Romney, the people who are more centric,
Yeah. Well, we'll see. If Pence runs, I would love that. I do think he carries himself in a presidential way. So, and I appreciate his rhetorical style a lot better than Trump's. We'll see.
Well, I will agree with you there.
Hey, we're ending on agreement.
Yay. Good to talk to you. As always, it's this combination of like and
No, I know. I was finding myself nervous going into this just because we're out of practice, but then I knew I would come to the end of it and be like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
It is.
It isn't, because you're a real person and you're my friend. And that, I think, transcends everything else.
Yeah.
Love you.
Love you, Heidi. And let's talk soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
How are you?
Good. Oh, are you still recording?
We're still recording, but we can edit this out. I've just learned that it's best to keep it on the whole time.
I know.
Monica does.
Yeah.
What?
That was fun. I feel like we covered a lot of topics and a lot of ground. And I feel like we stayed, my goal in this was to stay curious, because I feel like our very last conversation that we had, that we recorded, I think that I lost my curiosity and wanted to fight with you. Because we had decided somehow that people wanted to see more drama and
Right.
like just, leave it all on the table. And
yeah. Well, I mean, even that, I think that's fine. I think there can be some merit in even having that and then coming back, just like,
right.
it's so interesting. Like I once, do you know who Tim Ferriss is?
Mm-mm.
He's a podcaster. He's everywhere. But I remember him describing like what meditation is. Meditation is not about clearing the mind. It's about the practice of trying to like clearing the mind, but then running away with the thought and bringing your mind back to center. That's what it is. It's just practicing coming back. Coming back. And that's the meat of what meditation is. And it's just like, and I thought about that so much. It applies in so many things. It's like, even in the practice of like going into conflict, it's the coming back to connection, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I don't think we're taught that.
Mm-mm.
It's the whole cancel culture is like, you did something wrong. Now you're out.
Mm-hmm.
And we never want to hear from you again because there's no possibility of repair.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. I saw you do it when you like got super animated about the kids in cages part. And then you like kind of settled back and were like, whew, all right.
I don't remember. That's interesting. Yeah.